everyone, I'm Curtis Judd, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about what is often called a beauty dish, which is a light modifier. And in this particular case, we're talking about one for small flashes like a speedlight. And in this case, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about how this is actually made. I think there are lots of resources available out on the web. YouTube itself has several different demonstrations, so I really recommend you go there. This one is kind of based on one that I saw probably a couple of years ago. I think it was David Tejada that put together a design. I modified his design a little bit. In here, instead of using the CD-ROM, the plastic case that CD-ROMs usually come in, I used something that could be adjusted, and so I'm using some long screws here that allow you to move the mirror in and out a little bit. So again, check out those different videos that you can see and websites out on how to make them. And what I want to do is spend a little bit of time talking about some of the things that you can do with a beauty dish in terms of the types of effects that you can achieve when you use that on your flash. I do a variety of different types of photography. Probably my favorite is portraiture and weddings. And I recently used one, I used the light, or I guess sometimes I call this a light bowl. My dish is a little bit deeper than the standard dishes that you might see on the market. And the effect is just a little bit different. And the nice thing about beauty dishes is it gives you not only soft light, but it also kind of has a hard aspect to it at the very same time. So whereas on a soft box, the light fall off, the sort of the gradient from bright light to shadow is very, very smooth, and it's a pretty wide gradient. On a beauty dish, it's a little bit narrower, but it's still soft. So it still has a smooth transition from light to dark. And so it's a very unique effect, often used in glamour photography and things of that nature, but I think it works really, really well for both to use as a main light for portraits and also as a fill light, as you'll see in just a minute here. So let's talk a little bit about first its use as a main light. You can see in this photograph here that I used on this recent wedding shoot that it's very, very directional. The nice thing again is that the fall off is very quick, and the gradient again between the lightest and the darkest is fairly quick as well, but it is soft. It is smooth in that gradient there. And so here you can see very, very directional, and gives you a good example of what that looks like. Here's another shot that was taken actually at the reception. And not that this is a great photograph, but I think it illustrates something nicely. You can see the shadow behind our main subject here on the wall. And that illustrates, I think, very nicely the fall off that you see with this particular type of light modifier with a beauty dish. Again, it's very distinct. The shadow is still very distinct, but the edges have that nice sort of fuzzy, smooth transition that go from the darkest shadows to the lightest lights. Now, this can also be used extensively, and I've used it extensively as a fill light as well. And the reason I do this is that if I were just to use a regular speed light, that's a very, very harsh light. It's very small, so it produces a pretty hard type of light. But when you add this modifier to it, it suddenly makes your light source much larger. So you lose some power in that process of modifying the light, but it makes it much softer. And it's useful very much, as you can see in some of the photographs I'll show you here from the wedding, to really soften and fill in the subjects quite nicely. The main reason I use it, again, when I'm doing these outdoor shots at weddings is that it fills in the eyes very nicely, and that's one of the biggest challenges. If you're shooting outside in just natural light, if you don't have some sort of diffusion of the sun, whether you're shooting in open shade or full sunlight, which is a little bit hard for the subjects a lot of the time, this fills in the eyes quite nicely, and it does it in a very subtle fashion, so you get that nice quality. Also going back a little bit, one of the things that's nice about the fact that there's kind of a small transition between light and dark with a beauty dish, and yet it's a smooth transition, it's very nice at contouring your subject and adding depth and dimension. So you get a very kind of a three-dimensional feel to the photograph, which you wouldn't necessarily otherwise get. In terms of Fill again, it's really great at receptions if you're indoors in low light. What I'll typically do is just hold the camera with one hand and have the flash in the other, and I can just move it around to wherever I need it. And again, you get it kind of a directional light, so you don't get that nasty on-camera flash look that you'll often get if you just put your speedlight right up on top of your camera. But you also get the added benefit not only of taking it off your camera, but also getting that unique quality of the beauty dish. It can also be used for things that are not portrait related. Here's a couple shots of some insects, again, illustrating the very directional quality of the light and also the very diffuse quality of the light. So with the grasshopper, you can see very directional. I don't spill any light onto the background, and so it separates the subject from the background very nicely. And then with the ant here, it produces a very, very soft light that's very subtle. So it doesn't look like you're using flash, but it illuminates the subject quite nicely and doesn't leave any really, really harsh, nasty looking shadows like you would normally get if you were just shooting at midday. All right, well, I hope that helps illustrate some of the benefits of using this type of light modifier, beauty dish, on your Speedlight, and hope you enjoy getting out there and making one yourself and experimenting with the effect that you can get from it. Thanks again.